on this pad right here. There's 2 notes. 1, 2. Okay. Nisargadatta, if that word means boo-boo to you, it will mean something soon. Nisargadatta. And then the other note is almost a full sentence. How to perform right action. Okay. So before we go into Nisargadatta and how to perform right action, I want to give just a sentiment before we go into this stuff. So here at the Sober Living Residence, we don't go into this stuff. This stuff is what I would consider to be advanced explorations to the nature of consciousness. This is stuff for me and for you if you're listening. Here at the house, we stick strictly to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as a pathway to recover from substance use disorder, drug addiction, and alcoholism. I have to cough. So none of this stuff is discussed at the residence. It's tough enough early. So let me just give a little bit of a background about what brought me to this stuff. And when I say stuff, I mean Nisargadatta. And then the idea of performing right action. So when you come into recovery, when you're getting sober, or I should probably say, when I got sober, I had a head full, not a head full, my entire body and mind was locked in a behavioral pattern where I just used. I was powerless over my drug addiction and my alcoholism. I could not stop myself from using drugs and alcohol. And any person who's experienced states of alcoholism and addiction can identify with that. Wow, I've got a serious... The vape gods have not been kind this morning. Hold on, one more cough. Anybody who's experienced those states recognize the powerlessness that happens. So the body and the mind has formed itself. From what I can tell about my experience was... it was a habitual response to life itself. Anything externally that happened, anything internally that happened that was seemingly uncomfortable, I would use or drink. And then when I became an alcoholic or a drug addict, it was something that just was something had flipped in me, where it didn't matter what I thought, what I did, what I didn't do, how much I tried, how much I prayed, how much I asked. I was going to use, I was going to drink. And so whatever it is that brought me into a space out of which I could show up at a meeting and then follow all the suggestions and directions of what people were telling me, I don't know what created that space. And we can go into that later. And on the podcast, I've got some guests coming up soon where I'm hoping they're going to share their moment. I guess I would refer to it as a moment of clarity, or a moment or a shift where something occurred. For me, it was an experiential understanding of the nature of my condition. I would drink, I would use. There was nothing I could do about it. I'm screwed. And out of that space is from that space, I've been sober ever since. And so what happens is when I got sober, you're given all these suggestions, all these directions. There's things that I can do. There's actions that I can take to gradually change, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, my state of being. The actions facilitate a shift or a change in the brain chemistry, or I guess the body or the mind. It's like, it's just you go to meetings, you call people, you pray in the morning, you just do all this stuff, and then eventually something happens where your thought life changes. The things you think about, you're no longer thinking about drugs and alcohol. You're no longer thinking about what you're missing out on. It's just everything shifts. And then along with the 12-step process, you do this kind of deep inner work where you see these behaviors and these beliefs and these worldviews that are orbiting one's behavior. And then those get examined, and through the awareness of these things, they dissipate over time. So eventually what happens is, at least what happened for me, and I would expect, and I've heard of what happened for other people, is a shift occurs. In the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they refer to it as a psychic change, where the ideas and thoughts that dominated an individual in the past are no longer present, and they experience a total they experience and they show up as somebody totally different. Like a person basically changes. And once that psychic change occurs, things are different. And so early on, when you ask the question how to perform right action, it's pretty simple. Call your sponsor, go to a meeting, work the steps. If you're uncomfortable, go to a meeting, call your sponsor, work the steps, pray, meditate. If you're happy, go to a meeting, call your sponsor, pray, work. It's like you're just doing things. I think that's why the program works so well, because it's very action oriented. But then eventually, at least in my experience, something changed, something shifted. And there's an 11th step of this program called Sought Through Prayer and Meditation to Improve Our Conscious Contact with God as We Understood Him. And that's where we come into Nisargadatta. That was a long-winded way to get us to Nisargadatta. I felt like I had to give that background, because here at the residence, we're not doing this stuff we're about to go into. We stick to what I just described. Like whatever it is I just expressed at the residence here is where we stay. It's super simple here. Simple to the point where it takes, when I moved into the house and started helping design the program and working with the guys that were here, it actually was helpful for me to remember or reintegrate with just the simple nature of how the 12-step program works through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I still get kind of stunned by it, because I tend to float into outer space, and because I think it's important. I think at a certain point, and I was meeting with a guy yesterday, who went and visited his kids for the first time in recovery for like an extended period of time. And he let his parents know when he was there to do it, I've got to keep my sobriety first. I've got to be at a meeting every night. Can you watch the kids as I go to a meeting every night? And great, right? Like that's a great way to set yourself up for success. Eventually, what can happen, I'm not saying what should happen, but what can happen, or at least my experience has shown me, when I become comfortable, when I get comfortable in the new way of life, the life of a recovered alcoholic and addict, and I'm practicing step 11, which is sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand Him, the need for meetings, the need for calling people every day, all those things I was doing before can slowly dissolve, can slowly drop away. And I can actually exist in a relative state of ease and contentment, because I've got a relationship with this power. And so the relationship with the power supersedes all other forms of what could be considered things I need to do to maintain my recovery. And I'm putting quotes there because it looked like it felt like it was needed there. If you're watching the video, it's just a quote thing. But so eventually, like the goal of the 12-step program in its entirety is to establish a relationship with this power so one can live. And eventually the things that I think I needed, a day, a year, a month ago, are different, because I'm in a relationship with this unknown creative force that lives, expresses, and creates itself through and around me at all times. And you come into a space where you're protected. You feel protected, or you feel connected, or it's hard to explain what that is really like. And so when it comes to Nisargadatta, that was his pointer, or that's what he was on about. He was a mystic that lived in India somewhere. I'm going to give you a quick background without having fully understood. I've watched his videos. I've read his book. I've read his Wikipedia. I wish I could give you the background, but he was a guy who sat in an apartment and ran a shop underneath his apartment, and people would come to him and ask him questions, and he would share with him what he saw. And externally to the world, he was a self-realized individual. And what a self-realized individual is it's a person that has transcended the toils, whims, fancies, the world of man. They've actually transcended the thought-based, mind-based system of man. So they're no longer arbitered by behaviors or thoughts or ideas about who or what they are and who or what you are or what this is. They see beyond the veil. And they live and they live and they exist as a representation of consciousness itself. So the all, the self, God, whatever word you want to call it, they are in alignment and they are directly experiencing and actualizing a state of presence. That is what it means to refer to a self-realized person along these lines, like these mystic type people that I like to study from. So when Nisargadatta became realized, people began to approach him and they were asking him questions, and he would give direct responses to help people answer the question of human suffering, or why are we here, or what is this for, what's the meaning, all these deep questions about the natures of existence that one can ponder from time to time. He had direct answers for. And those answers are difficult, it's difficult to comprehend because the mind itself is trying to understand something that can't be understood. And so it grapples with it. It's a form, sitting in meditation with a guy like Nisargadatta is in itself a form of meditation, because you're bringing all of you into it, whatever that is, beliefs, egos, ideas, experiences, stories, whatever I think I am, I'm bringing into this relationship or this moment with this person, and they're piercing through it. And they're saying, basically, you don't know who you are. And the reason you're struggling is because you think you know who you are. And so I'm going to read a quick quote here from Nisargadatta. I've got two of them. And so we can talk about this form of meditation that I've been practicing and I think could be helpful for anyone to engage with. The meditation, before I go into the quote, the meditation is resting in and examining the state of I am. So as we exist in time and space, in this moment that exists in perpetuity, this moment that always is present, what you want to do is you want to sit and you want to recognize, well, I guess I can guide us into it a little easier. You can just notice that I'm talking. You could notice your breath. You could notice your breathing. And then you can be quiet for a second and notice thoughts that arise out of your consciousness. What you want to do when you start to notice those thoughts arise out of your consciousness is you want to turn your examination into that space out of which the thoughts arose. And that is the space of I am. The space of being. The space that precedes thought. And you could go on, like that's a pretty simple explanation for it for right now. And that's something to percolate and practice with and recognize and just return to that space of I am, the space that precedes thought or precedes attention. you can hang out there for a little bit. Then eventually what you'll start to see is that the I am space, the I, the me, or the I, or the awareness, is also coming from somewhere, or is somewhere. And where is that? And you just return to the breath, recognize thoughts, go back to the I am, go back to the I am, the being, and over time, a shift can occur, and right actions can arise, and harmony and levity and relaxation can be a natural state of being. So here's the quote from him, and I'll read it here. It says, my guru told me, go back to that state of pure being where the I am is still in its purity before it got contaminated with this I am or that I am. Your burden is of false self-identifications. Abandon them all. My guru told me, trust me, I tell you, you are divine. Take it as the absolute truth. Your joy is divine. Your suffering is divine too. All comes from God. Remember it always, you are God. Your will alone is done. I did believe him and soon realized how wonderfully true and accurate were his words. I did not condition my mind by thinking, I am God, I am wonderful, I am beyond. I simply followed his instruction, which was to focus the mind on pure being. I am, and stay in it. I used to sit for hours together with nothing but the I am in my mind, and soon the peace and joy and deep, all-embracing love became my normal state. In it all disappeared. Myself, my guru, the life I lived, the world around me. Only peace remained and unfathomable silence. Okay, so the important thing to remember when you're hearing this type of stuff is don't try to overthink it. Don't think it's something you need to do. All you really got to do is just be present and percolate with this stuff. There's nothing that needs to be done here. It will happen naturally on its own as you stay engaged with this type of thinking. So he's basically recognizing or saying that if one is interested in realizing, I'd like to use the word God consciousness or love, just meditate in that state of I am, or be in that state of I am. Return to a state of being. And and that's where I want to connect this next part. How to perform right action, because what do you do if you're just sitting around? Like, is that actually a valuable use of one's time to sit around and just meditate in being, and that's what your life is, and you're blissed out all the time, and everything is all your answers of problems are solved, and that's what you do now? And that can be if that's what you're called to do, but for many of us, me included, that's not how I can live. It's actually not necessary. Because there's some clips of Nisargadatta that I'll be putting up in this video, but when one is in that space of being, when they're in that space of silence, as I can speak for myself, when I'm in that space, actions take themselves. So if you watch the video, Nisargadatta is very expletive. He's expressing, he's moving around, he's burning lung darts, he's smoking cigs, lighting incense, he's all over the place. Because what happens is one is one, it recognizes and that they themselves are not the body mind. The body mind, or me, or whatever you're seeing or viewing or listening to, is an expression of this divine, all-encompassing energy, and it has its own path or its own role to play in the world. So the space that I like, if there is a me here, which I actually don't believe there is, but if there's a right place for me to put energy and effort, it is in the meditative state of being, because in that state is the space out of which all creative and expressive action can occur. Connections can be made, relationships can be bolstered and enhanced. I can be of present and of service to what life is asking of me. And so I'm actually more effective in living, because I'm no longer tangled up in the games of the mind or the world of man. I'm coming from a different place. And it's very easy to fall asleep. It happens to me all the time. It's very easy for me to start to believe what I'm thinking and start to take seriously what's going on in my head. And when that happens, beliefs start to form, and I start to create rules and ideas that tell me where I'm going and how I should be living. And I actually limit myself through thought, like the thought of who I am, who I should be, what I should be doing, how I should be doing it. It's a very limiting framework. So when I can get out of that, when one can stay in the state of I am, or move their efforts and energy from the outside world to the inside world, bringing the attention back inside into being, all those things that I think I want or think I need, they dissolve over time, and I begin to enter into a state of creation and connection with what is. And natural energy is what moves and expresses the body as it moves through time and space. So we've been going for a minute here, 22 minutes. This is definitely a podcast. I may take some clips. We may not know. I'm going to take a quick sip here. By the way, I want to reiterate, this is not discussed at the house, at the Sober Living Residence. That's why I'm up here in the office all by myself. We don't go into this stuff here. It's really unnecessary. This is for you and for me. This is for whoever's listening or still listening. So 1 second, I'm going to take a smoke. All right. So to end the show, I just want to read this last thing from Vernon Howard. That was a disgusting noise. I did it again. This is from The Power of Your Supermind. And it's called How to Perform Right Action. It means the finding of true value. You see, the secret terror of a man is that although many things happen to him, nothing happens that is real. It may be new, exciting, or even gratifying, but it is just not authentic to the deeper self. The more you are your real self, the less you do unreal things and the happier you are. How strange that people repeatedly suffer from wrong